All right, friends, it's time to give you loyal listeners a discount on protein powder. You may or may not know, but I launched my very first protein powder 2 years ago. It's a grass-fed beef isolate with only 3 ingredients: grass-fed beef, either organic cacao or organic vanilla, and organic monk fruit. Now, if you don't want any of the added flavor and sweeteners, you can also just get unflavored. And no matter what flavor you choose, you're getting over 23 grams of protein per scoop, which is going to keep you full and satisfied between meals. I love starting my day with a Fab4 smoothie and breaking my fast with that much protein. It makes a serious difference in my cravings and blood sugar balance the rest of the day, and I've seen it with my clients as well. Now, I never thought I'd own a product company, but when I got pregnant with Sebastian, I realized the majority of protein powders were chemically extracted or enzymatically extracted, and I wanted to use heat and water only. I wanted minimal ingredients because we don't need those emulsifiers, fillers, or added vitamins, minerals, and probiotics. All of those additions increase the chances that it's not going to work for your body, whether it be bloating, digestion issues. I just wanted pure, clean protein to keep you full and satisfied so you could build the most delicious Fab4 smoothie. And I have to say, I'm pretty proud of the flavor. If you take a look at our reviews on Amazon, you'll see 5-star reviews for flavor. And that is key, because if you don't love your Fab4 smoothie and you don't love drinking your protein powder, you're not going to do it. It won't become a habit, and it's consistency that outpaces everything. So if you're here and you're listening and you want to give our protein powder a try, use the code PODCAST5 for $5 off your order. And let me know if you love it. My favorite ways to apply this protein powder is in my Fab4 smoothie, making freezer fudge, making chocolate milk, making hot chocolate, and throwing the unflavored into all my kids' baked goods. So let me know how you use it. Let me know if you love it, and share this podcast deal with your friends. Hey friends, before we get started, I want to say thank you for subscribing and reviewing the show. It really means a lot, and it helps other listeners find us. I had this awesome review come through this morning, so I wanted to share. So much valuable information. I follow Kelly on IG and have her books. She's amazing. Out of all the wellness and nutrition experts out there, I trust her the most. I learn so much from her podcasts and take notes every time. I always feel so pumped and positive to take control of my health. Well, first of all, I'm so glad you feel that way, because that's the whole point. All I want you to do is to walk away from every episode feeling like you can start implementing something that may change your life. So I really appreciate the review. Thank you so much. All right, guys, let's get started. This episode is an oldie but a goodie. It was the first podcast I ever taped with my friend Alli Webb, who is the founder of the phenomenally successful Drybar and now her massage concept, Squeeze. She's been a guest judge on Shark Tank, sat on thousands of panels, and inspires women everywhere. In this episode, we discuss her physical transformation, her divorce, and starting a new business venture. Since taping this podcast, a few things have changed. Alli has hearts in her eyes and a new beau, and Squeeze just celebrated a successful first year. But I decided I still wanted to post this episode because Alli's vulnerability and honesty is really raw, and it's exactly how she is in her relationship with her friends, and one of the reasons why I love her so much. Plus, the lessons in this episode are still there. Like, how do you change your relationship with food? And how do you know when the right time is to end a marriage? So I hope you guys learn something and enjoy following along. And thanks again for understanding that this is my first episode. All right, Alli Webb, we're recording. This is the first podcast I've ever taped.
Honored. I didn't realize that when I walked in here today. I feel very, very special now.
Well, are you kidding me? You're like the best girl boss. From the Drybar to now Squeeze and everything that you do in between, the mom of 2 boys, running around, the best auntie, your own podcast. There are so many things happening for you. How do you keep all those balls in the air?
Well, I'm sure anybody you talk to who has so much going on like I do will tell you you don't. And there's always one on the ground. I think that's kind of how I feel. I have felt for years, in building Drybar for the last, 9 years, almost 9 years. It's like a constant struggle and juggle to make it all work and to, be a good mom and be a good businesswoman and take care of myself and my family. And it's like everybody always says, like, what's the balance? Where's the balance? Like there really is no such thing. You just kind of do the best you can every day and know that you're just not going to check every single box every day. And then I think, you kind of have to let yourself off the hook with that, which has taken me time to get to, which I'm not sure I totally do, but you kind of get used to it, I guess, over time.
Yeah, it's just with the seasons, right?
Yeah.
If you're building Drybar, that's where your energy is going.
Yeah.
When your boys were young, I'm sure that's where a lot of your energy was going.
Well, and now I have like teenagers, which is really taking a lot of energy. I mean, you hear people talk about that and you have a new baby and there's so many challenges and having babies is hard. But then when you have teenagers, you're like, oh shit, this is way harder than I imagined. And, my boys are in that phase right now of their life where they're figuring out who they are and they're their own people now and they're experimenting with things and there's girlfriends and I just want to bury my head in the sand a bit.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting time for me.
Well, I think times have changed so much from when we were young to now looking at your boys being teenagers with
access.
Facebook and Instagram and the DMs and everything
and
being online.
It's like they have access to everything now, which we didn't.
No, we didn't. I feel like they're growing up a lot faster than we ever did.
Yeah.
So speaking of like just childhood, how were you raised? Where were you raised? What did that look like? And tell me a little bit about how food played a part in that. What did you grow up eating? And if you can remember how your relationship with food started.
Well, I grew up in South Florida. I was born in New York, but primarily grew up in South Florida and, not with great eating habits. Neither one of my parents were very healthy. I mean, vegetables were like not really a thing. And I grew up really not liking vegetables and it's a challenge. And I know, because you know me so well, how that is a challenge for me. Like a lot of butter, a lot of salt if you want me to eat a vegetable. And yeah, I'm sure those habits were instilled in me as a kid because it was like hot dogs and pizza and tater tots. You remember tater tots?
They're so damn good.
There's nothing better than tater tots. And French fries and McDonald's and all that shit. I mean, that's what I grew up on. And, I was a pretty active kid. So I wasn't, overweight. I was pretty like in shape because I was always doing stuff. And listen, I had great parents, but they didn't have great eating habits. And so it wasn't even like something I ever really thought about. And it really wasn't until I was, I had 2 babies and I was like, this isn't exactly the body I want. And, I'm sure we'll get more into it, but meeting you really changed a lot and me a lot and understanding food and how it all works. And there's so much to it that you don't realize when you're a kid. And, now again, I'm jumping ahead quite a bit, but obviously I've had a pretty massive transformation in my body thanks to you.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because when people ask me like that, it's like, oh, it's all food. Yes, you should work out and you should exercise. But at the end of the day, I mean, that's what I believe is that it's like, it all comes down to what you're eating with the way your body looks.
Absolutely. So when it comes to growing up on the tater tots and the French fries and the fast food, because I think we had this conversation when we first met. My mom used to drive us through McDonald's on the way to school. And my sisters would get the pancakes and...
Isn't it crazy?
And I would actually get a vanilla milkshake because I didn't like the breakfast. My mom was like, well, it's milk. It's healthy.
You've always liked smoothies in some form.
Yeah, that was my first smoothie, but are those cravings still there for you? Do you still love that food or how do you feel about it now?
They are still there. But I don't indulge. I don't allow myself to indulge, obviously, the way I did when I was a kid or the way I did 5 years ago or 3 years ago. But I sometimes like allow myself to have a little bit of that here and there, which I think is something that I actually
really healthy
learned from you.
Yeah.
That like, I can't eat fried chicken every day, but I can have a little bit every once in a while. And I think that's kind of the mentality that I've adopted probably from you, that, you can't be 100% of the time.
Right. If you're that rigid, it's the pressure.
Yeah.
Right. It's
like you burst.
You're going to burst.
Yeah.
And it's deprivation is a binge in the bank.
Yeah.
So you're eventually going to break and binge and eat all those foods that you didn't want to eat. But when it comes to eating the veggies, which I'm fine with you slathering them in a little bit of healthy butter, right? The grass-fed butter and maybe some pink salt. But Are you finding that you're feeling positively motivated to put those things on your plate now because of your transformation?
Yeah. I mean, that losing, as you know, I lost almost 30 pounds, and which I was not like overweight by any means, but I just didn't love the way my body looked. I didn't love the way I felt. And I always felt like kind of bloated, and losing that much weight and knowing that I could do it, and knowing that it was predominantly food, that it does largely inform how I eat and what I consume now, that I make just so much better choices. And as you know, there was like a period that I was really like eating so well, which is how I like lost all that weight. And it really taught me how to eat differently, going through that time. It's like eating butternut squash pasta and like only, protein and veggies. And it was really, really hard. And I think I still follow that as a guideline, and I do stay away from like the bad carbs. And I, even though sometimes I let myself indulge, it's just such a small amount. So it does that time of losing that weight and working really hard to lose that weight has definitely informed the way I eat in everyday life now,
So what does a day in the life of Alli Webb look like now?
Well, it's like every day is a different day. And it's really interesting how my life has changed so much from the early days of Drybar when I did every single job to, slowly but surely giving up, the decision-making process and allowing other smarter people to come in and help me run and grow the business. And that's kind of what's happened slowly over the last 9 years. And now we have, a professional CEO, and we have an executive team, and we have all these amazing people. And, I have a much more peripheral vision of the business, and I'm still, very involved in the business, but I'm not in the day-to-day weeds the way I used to be, which is a really interesting place to be as an entrepreneur. And now we're starting a new business, Squeeze, this new massage concept, which we're really excited about. So my life is like not there's not as much structure and like routine as there used to be, which is...
Well, you earned it.
Yeah. I mean, it is weird. It's weird to be like every day is different. That's a weird reality for someone who's, I'm almost 44 years old, and I've had like jobs or all my life where you do the same thing pretty much every day. So it is definitely this weird time where I'm like, some days I'm working on Squeeze, some days I'm working on my podcast, some days I'm doing press all day, some days I'm in the Drybar, shop, some days I'm in Drybar headquarters. Like, I don't know. It just depends on the day, which is really fun and exciting and exhilarating. And then it's also a little like not settling sometimes too, especially with all the other stuff that's going on in my life right now. So,
right.
So, I think from an outsider's perspective, it probably seems really exciting and glamorous. And I get to do such amazing things and meet such amazing people and have such great opportunities. But, the grass is always greener. And it's like some days are really awesome and fun. And some days you're like, oh God, I got to get through the day, So.
Right. Work is always work at the end of the day. There are things that you love to do, I'm sure, with your business, and days that aren't as exciting. That's okay. This is the life of a real entrepreneur. Yeah. She's getting a phone call. Who's calling?
It's not even a phone call. It's like the gate at my house that allows people to enter. I mean,
I was on a podcast once and there was an earthquake, so we're just going with it.
I mean, might as well keep this in. I actually I just moved into a new house, and it's like the feature I love the very most because there's an app on my phone that rings when someone comes to my door, and there's a camera so I can see who it is. And by like I'm like the gatekeeper, literally the gatekeeper, and I love it. Anyways, there's good. A little in the
little
behind
security.
The scenes,
a little security.
Yeah.
So, do you want to tell our listeners why you moved into a new house?
Yes. So I haven't really talked much about this. If you follow me on Instagram, you know a little bit, but I recently separated from my husband, who's also my business partner, as well as my brother. So
she's not married to her brother.
No, not married to my brother.
Her brother and her husband
are both my business partners. My brother is just my brother. My husband is my ex-husband. Well, soon to be ex-husband is my business partner too. And yeah, and that's kind of been a big life transition for me, obviously, and a really tough one. But I think ultimately the right decision. But yeah, I mean, I'm definitely in this like very uncharted territory in my life right now, trying to figure out what's next and how to navigate through all of this, especially with two young kids. And yeah, it's challenging.
And how long were you guys together for?
We were married 16 years. So, we met when we were in our early 20s and had babies really quickly and, spent so many years growing this business and raising the kids. And that was so my focus for, this like tunnel vision of doing that for so many years. And it was exciting. And we, I wouldn't change any of it. I wouldn't trade it. I wouldn't change it. It was, I'm such a big believer in everything happens for a reason, and you kind of have to trust your path even when you can't totally see it and it feels real bumpy. I think that we've obviously had tremendous success with building this business together, and it wouldn't be what it is without the three of us. It wouldn't be what it has become. So I'm grateful for that time, but I also recognize that it wasn't right. It just wasn't the right thing for me and ultimately for him. And it was the hardest decision I've ever made. I mean, you don't think you're going to ever be that person who's like, oh yeah, I'm ending my marriage. But that's what happened, and we're figuring it out, and a lot of crying, a lot of conversations, a lot of, just not knowing which way is up, but, taking it day by day.
Well, you're a really positive person, and I know actively trying to positively co-parent your two boys. Yep. And you ultimately made the decision to, separate and put yourself first. And I know for a long time you were trying to make it work. What advice would you have for women who are listening in and maybe afraid to take that step?
I think it was a long time coming, and a decision that you look at the relationships that you're in, and, and I do get asked, because I've been somewhat public with my breakup, and I've gotten a lot of DMs and questions from people like, how did you know it was time to end your marriage? And listen, I am not a relationship expert. But I think it's for me, it was a little bit like a flip switched. That's how it felt, even though, in retrospect, I think it was years of it, not being totally right, but wanting to figure it out and make it work. And Cameron is him, he's just an amazing guy, and he's a great dad, and he's a great business partner. But, we just couldn't make it work. And I think you have to recognize when you've kind of hit a wall. And for me, I felt like there's some things that I needed that I wasn't getting. And I know he felt the same way. So I think it's a hard decision. And the more people I've talked to about this, it's interesting that there's this because I get this now, where I'm going with this is you go from the stability of a marriage and a partner to being on your own. And now I'm a single mom, and you're this is scary. I didn't really think it through. I made this decision because I felt like it was the best decision for me, and it was what I needed. And I needed, to take care of myself. And I felt like I needed to be on my own and figure that out. But now being on my own and figuring that out is much more challenging than I think I thought or didn't think. And so I think, you have to really weigh that out of do you, what's more important to you and taking that step, because what I've experienced in the last 6 months since we've been apart is it's really hard on your own. And I'm in the throes literally right now of trying to figure out how to be a single mom, how to be on my own half the time. And it's lonely and it's sad and it's hard, and I have to believe that, I will get to the freedom land and it will get easier. And that this was the right decision. And, it's now very amicable between Cam and I. So we are actively co-parenting, but that didn't happen right away. So, and there's still a lot of hurdles with that. So, I don't know. I guess, I don't know if I gave any advice, but I think it's you have to really go deep and listen to your heart and your soul and that gut feeling we all have about I always say like life is short and life is long. Like you got to do what ultimately makes you happy. Because I do think that informs everything else in your life. It's like to what you're eating, to how you're taking care of yourself. And for me, I was like filling this void with a lot of things that weren't really at the end of the day important. I was like, I would shop like crazy and I would, it was like filling this void with other things. And I think now like I'm getting to the point where I'm just like figuring out like who I am again and like what I love. And so
what you said is resonating with me. You're giving up this stability of a best friend and someone you can call and pick up the phone and say like, I went, this is what happened today, or can you pick up the kids? And you have this partner and best friend that makes your life
be there for
feel
you.
stable, right? But ultimately you were missing something in your relationship, and that void was causing you to kind of grasp in other areas, whether that was shopping for you, or for other people, it might be food. It might be, some other form of small addiction or way to like fill that empty hole. And it's scary to leave that stability. It's scary to give that up. But when we make those hard decisions, we learn a lot about ourselves. And you're letting everyone know who's listening that it is scary. It is hard, but you're getting to know yourself again. So what are some things that you've discovered in the last 6 months that you do love?
Well, it's interesting how I'm still very much in the process of that and figuring it out. And, I used to just be so constantly on the go. And maybe it's like, just like we talked about in the beginning, how my life has changed so much, but I found myself like slowing down a lot, not just because I have a little bit more time professionally, but because I am kind of trying to figure out who I am and what I want and what I like. And that is like, it's kind of like such a self-discovery time for me, which is, also filled with a lot of like, heartbreak and anxiety because of that. But it is an exciting time. And, I'm finding that like, I really prefer like going on hikes than going, to a gym. And, cause I like to be outdoors and be able to listen to music. I feel like music has been really healing for me. And I'm constantly listening to music, and I'm constantly listening to like, books on tape and trying to like inhale as much knowledge as I can. And I'm also, I see a therapist twice a week, and I'm just like trying to figure out what is also ultimately going to make me happy. And I don't really have the answer yet. I don't really know. I think that's kind of this next chapter for me, is figuring out what I want, because I have spent, the last 10 years building Drybar, but then, before that, like everybody in their early 20s, it's like, you're trying to figure out what you want to do. You're on this like treadmill of like, what am I going to do? How am I going to make money? How am I going to be successful? And you just go, 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 go. I think this is the first time in my life that I've like slowed down and said like, hey, like, what do I want? What's going to make me happy? And so, I'll report back maybe in another 6 months of where I end up, because I'm still really figuring that out. Like, that I have a podcast that I really love doing, because I'm talking to like other entrepreneurs, and it's my brother and I. It's called Raising the Bar, and that's something that I'm really enjoying. I do have like a couple other projects that are brewing that I'm, then I got to see, what's next and what's going to ultimately make me happy. And obviously, still being able to develop product for Drybar and starting this other company, Squeeze. And, I still have a lot of things that I love from my kind of old life that are incorporated into my new life. But yeah, it's just a big self-discovery phase for me right now.
I can tell just sitting across from you how much more relaxed you are as a person than when we first met. A lot of people have told me that.
That's interesting.
Well, it's interesting too, because I have a lot of clients when they are wound tight and they are driving for building their business and being on the go all the time. Those are the times when we're just reaching for those foods that are highly palatable or filling a void or making us feel good in the moment. They don't make us feel good ultimately over time. But so many times when people can take a deep breath and calm their body, they make way better choices around food.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about what you're eating nowadays.
So I think in general, I'm consuming less, which, I don't know if that's good or bad, but I think, and far be it for me to like make grand statements about the way like Americans eat, but like we do overeat as a society, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Cheesecake Factory size portions are a little bit over the top.
And so I think with like my kind of transformation and like all the weight I lost, it was very, very small portions I was eating, as you know.
4 ounces of protein.
Me. Yeah.
2 cups of veggies, 2 tablespoons.
Which, by the way, I never actually measured, but I just was like, let me just eat a little like a bird and then it'll be fine. But, but
I'm going to actually stop you because Alli's eating enough calories for her human body to sustain her muscle mass. And
I didn't lose muscle.
And to keep a healthy body.
Yeah.
We really burned a lot of fat in the process, but it came down to when you were traveling a lot for Drybar and you're going to different locations and you're in airports and, those are...
Yeah, I mean, I used to text, for everyone listening, I used to text, if you looked at, I don't think you save your text messages, but if you should, because that would be a really interesting book. I would text Kelly constantly from the grocery store, from the airport and be like, can I eat this? Should I eat this? And she'd be like, no, or let me see the back of it and tell me like what it was. And because you were so amazing and helped me so much with that, it like, now I know how to do that. And now I know like, I just make better choices. I eat, and again, not always. I'm, like I love Howlin' Rays and I'm having it this Super Bowl Sunday. But, I even find that my body doesn't even like allow me to eat nearly the portion size I used to. Like I just get full much faster. And I also don't allow myself to get to that. And everybody knows this feeling when you get yourself so full and it's like you're uncomfortably full. Like to me, there's what?
Like Thanksgiving.
But and Thanksgiving is obviously like, I feel like the time you should do that.
Yeah.
But you know that feeling when you're like, you're satisfied, but you could eat more, and it's like, I think I'm acutely aware of that now where I didn't used to think because it's like, oh, there's more food on my plate. I'm just going to eat it. Whereas now I'm like, I'm good. Like, not to be wasteful of food, but like I never finish my stuff anymore. It's like yesterday for breakfast, I had, brunch because I also still do active fasting. So I don't eat until like 11 or 12 every day. And I had like a breakfast burrito and it had like scrambled eggs, steak. I think there was a little bit of like hash brown and cheese in there, which I know that doesn't sound super healthy, but it was all organic. And I ate the inside of it and one side of it. I didn't eat the outside, the burrito part of it, and then I ate basically only what was in, and I had guacamole with it and it was so good, but it was like, that really wasn't like, that was okay, right?
Absolutely. You're having your protein and your eggs and your steak. You're getting healthy fat from the yolks of those eggs and the avocado. So you put a little starch on your plate with the hash brown or whatever. The hash browns
were kind of baked into it. It's so good.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah.
So these are the kind of decisions where like, okay, you're making the choice to turn off some hunger hormones with the healthy fat and the protein.
Yeah.
And you're having a little bit of starch, but you're not overdoing it. I think when people sit down and they have this idea in their head that eating one way is good and eating another way is bad. Then the minute they take a bite of that burrito, they're like, well, forget it. I had this burrito. It's bad for me. I'm going to eat the entire thing. I'm going to eat the outside. I'm going to eat all the potatoes inside. And you know what? The rest of the day, I'm going to get a pizza. We should meet up for drinks. You're just consciously eating, which is really, I think it's because you've calmed your body down.
Yeah.
I really think it's because you're in a place where
I'm so conscious of it to your point, which I haven't really thought about any of this, but it's like, I was just, thinking about like what I ate yesterday and, that's how I ate it. I got what I wanted. I like that burrito, but I know I'm not going to there was no chance I was going to pick it up and eat both sides of it. Like I couldn't have, my body wouldn't have allowed it.
Stomach's too small for that now.
Yeah. But to your point, I got to enjoy something that I really like, and like anything with guacamole in it is amazing. And so, I think those are, gosh, I haven't really thought about all that, but I'm sure that that's all like you're doing because I just retrained myself on how to eat, and those are the kinds of decisions I make all the time. Even if there are, because speaking of tater tots, the person I was eating with did have tater tots in their plates and I did eat one, I let myself indulge a little bit and that was that,
Yeah.
And then, and then I had like steak and veggies for dinner and that was it,
I mean, Alli loves red meat.
I do.
I'm going to tell you, I don't think that's a bad thing. I think a lot of people, there's a lot of red meat shaming that's happening right now, but
I know.
I've helped women bring periods back. I think it's one of the strongest sources of B vitamins and iron.
Yeah. Isn't it why people are sometimes anemic because they don't have enough?
Exactly. Yeah. So they'll tell you should take an iron pill or eat some red meat. And a lot of times people are anti-eating red meat, which is hard, because it's the most bioavailable form of iron and B vitamins out there. Quality is so important when it comes to red meat. So there's way more omega-3, which is anti-inflammatory fat in a pasture-raised animal versus a feedlot animal, right? And that's contributing to global warming and pollution. If you're buying, I guess USDA, feedlot animals, but. Why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about what's next for you? I know Squeeze is next.
Yes.
So what's the concept? Why did you think there was an empty space in the market for that? And where can we expect to see these locations?
So my brother, my business partner, and even
who has an adorable little girl.
Yeah. Oh gosh, Liv is the cutest. She's the equivalent to Bash.
They'll date later.
I know they'll be a very cute couple. So, my brother and I, as historically, and even as like kids, we would get massages all the time, probably because our parents did. And we always been big massage connoisseurs and, have noticed over the years that for a long time now that they're just similar to Drybar. There isn't a great place currently to go, or I don't know when this podcast it airs, but to go for a massage. And I don't mean just to get it's hit or miss. You can get a great massage. There's great masseuses everywhere, but it's obviously about the experience. Just like Drybar is like, you can go anywhere and get a blowout, but it's, you want everything that surrounds it, from the lighting to the music, to the experience, the customer service, the decor, all of that stuff. And that we felt like has largely been missing in massage. And, there's a couple of places here and there that do a great job of it. But there is still, to us, there's a big hole and frankly a big opportunity in this space because, there's a lot of like massage chains out there, where, the decor is not great. The customer service isn't great. Like you have, they might have a lot of locations, but you have to call every single location. The convenience factor is not there. And so we've basically, and this is really so much of my brother, Michael Landau's brainchild. And he really had been thinking about this for years and talking to me about it. And obviously hair is more my passion, but I was excited about this idea because it really is what we're doing is making a beautiful space. And our same architect that did Drybar is designing the spaces for Squeeze. And so it's this beautiful space. And the great thing about it though is before you even walk in the space, you book your massage on an app.
So it's just like Drybar.
So similar, except that it's even like one up on that because what you do is like you go on the app, you download the app and you go into the app and you put in all of the preferences you could possibly imagine from like, do you like oil or lotion? Do you like hands or elbows? Like, is there a part of your body you don't want touched? Is there a part of your body that you do want work done more? The lighting, the room temperature, like the heating of the bed. Do you like a hot towel after, or do you like to leave oily? Like, do you want oil in your hair? I mean, there's, because, everybody listening knows when you go and get a massage, there's a million little things that can make or break your massage experience. You
can feel so annoyed if,
yes.
I mean, I'm one for a sports massage or something really strong.
Deep, yeah.
I really want that deep massage. And when someone's just sitting there buttering my toast with oil,
like, no.
I'm like, sister, I could rub this oil on myself.
Yeah.
What's going on?
But what's funny is like, there are people who actually enjoy that. I don't either. Yeah. And it's like crazy to me, but that's the thing. It's like everyone has very specific wants and needs when they're getting a massage. And historically that stuff hasn't been met well because, you get in the room, you have like, it's this like pressure pack of like, you're getting your clothes off and then you're like waiting for them to come in and you're like, oh shit, I forgot to tell them this and I didn't tell them this. And then they're in the middle of your massage and like, do you want to like interrupt and say, this is not strong enough? Or there's just a lot of awkwardness that happens. So what we're trying to do is eliminate that by you going on the app and like us potentially thinking of anything you could think of that you want in your massage. And when you come in and you're like, hi, I'm Kelly, I'm here for my massage. You're, taken back to this room that's preset for you. You choose the music, you choose like the room temperature, if you want the bed heated and like so on and so forth. And have this great massage. And we're also training our massage therapists to ask certain questions and to check in. And so that, like you're making sure that everything's great. And then the greatest part of it is when you're done, because you've done everything on the app, you basically essentially pay on the app. So when you're done, you just walk out the door.
Like Uber.
Yeah, exactly. It's very much like the Uber or Postmates model where you just have this, this like seamless, cashless experience where you don't have to worry about the transaction of money, which especially after you've gotten a massage, you're like so relaxed and you're in this blissful state. But then you have to go stand at a front desk and your face is all scrunchy and there's like two people in front of you. The girl can't find your information. It's like all the shit that happens. The phone's ringing and you're just like, I just want to leave. I've literally done that at spas. Be like, you have my credit card. I'm going. Like, I'm not sitting here because like, I get so annoyed because you're just like, I feel so good right now. And that's about to be gone. And that was part of the concept too, is like, we want to make this like a really easy, you tip later, you rate your therapist, which is another great feature that the app will have, is like all the therapists, you can read everybody's reviews, you can choose, you can see when a therapist is working. So it's very, very technology based and friendly so that, everything is kind of done before you even walk in the door. And then you walk out in this like blissful state.
Well, I love that for so many reasons, because I've definitely been in a massage where, one, I'm not getting the service that I want. Two, I've walked out and had to do that credit card transaction, ran into a client with the lines on my face.
Just like, I don't want to talk right now.
And when the person behind the desk asks you, how much do you want to tip that person? And they're standing behind the desk. It's uncomfortable.
So awkward.
But that also, it's interesting because in this tech world, when we're able to say what we want behind a screen, it's hard for me to coach my clients a little bit, which on the flip side, I love this for massage. But when it comes to asking for what you want in person and being able to stand up for yourself as a woman, as a business owner, as a person, it's making it more and more difficult. And I think that there's a lot of times, especially when I'm coaching clients, where they maybe have a friend who is the food pusher, the wine pusher. We're getting the apps, we're getting the flatbread. Why aren't you eating that? And you
have to be really strong when you have friends like that.
You do.
Yeah.
And it's thinking about who those people are. I've had to coach certain clients to have different types of interactions with those people. Instead of going to dinner with them, instead of getting drinks with them, can you go for a hike?
Yeah.
Can you get your nails done? Can you go get a blowout together?
Yeah.
Something like that, where you're either diffusing the situation by not even having it be an option, but at certain point, you have to step out of your comfort zone and tell someone what you're doing and what you want. And I know specifically, obviously, when we got strict about your diet and cleaning it up, and we did that to build confidence in you, right? We wanted consistency for over a month of eating clean so that you knew you could do it.
Yeah.
Because I feel like there was a point when we first got together where you wanted the quick fix.
Oh, forever. I always want the quick fix. That's what I ask my therapist. Like, how do I get not sad anymore? And she's like, no, you just have to be for a little while, and you're like, I don't want to be. It's just like, I didn't want to do what you were telling me to do.
But you got to work for it, right? You got to work for the confidence. You got to work to know, like, I can do this. I can always do this. And I think that period of time really has helped you and supported you even after it's 100%. Over, because you're able to have a tater tot, have one. And if someone were to say, why don't you have some more of those? You can easily say, nope, I'm good.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
What advice would you have for our listeners in regards to prioritizing your health and maybe getting out of a relationship if you need to, and following your dreams?
Well, I would definitely, I think in terms of relationships, like listen to that inner voice and do, and again, I know I said it already that life is long and life is short, but you have to, ultimately like dig deep and make the decision that's going to make you happy. Because I do think it has, a ripple effect in your life and your job and your business. And even though I'm in the throes of figuring that out now I don't think I'm super happy at the moment. I'm still figuring that out. I think it's funny to, which I haven't thought of until talking about it today, equate it with like that very painful month of changing the way I ate. It sucked. I mean, I was texting you all the time, like miserable. And I had to work for it, and I had to and then it has proven to be very fruitful, no pun intended, and having long-term effects. And I think that's kind of a good, parallel to what I'm dealing with in my personal life is this is a really hard time for me that I think will have really positive results in the long run. It's just hard to see at the moment, but I know that I'm going to get there. And I think I guess that's the best advice I can give to people is that, you have to sometimes just put in the work to get to where you want to go, so.
Absolutely. I think in all of your life, you've done that. You put in the work when you started Drybar. And I'm sure when you think back to the days and hours that it took, and now looking at you today where every day is different and sometimes you're doing press and sometimes you're in the headquarters, but that stress and that, those 14, 16-hour days are a little bit long gone, but look at you now. So I think that that's the case in everything that we do is the hardest part is going to be rewarding in the end. It's going to be a lesson in the end. And if anyone out there is listening and going through something really tough right now, I would say just remember that it's going to inform your decisions later. It's going to make you stronger. It's going to make you better. And if you just try to band-aid it and say, oh, maybe we'll just get back together, that would be easier.
Yeah.
Or forget it. Maybe I'll just order McDonald's or I'll get that Postmates meal. It's going to make me feel better. You're just putting off the inevitable. And I think diving into it and doing the work is ultimately going to make you a better, brighter, and happier person.
Yeah, 100%. And it's sometimes hard to see the forest through the trees, but you get there,
Totally.
So,
well, I'm really proud of you, Alli.
Thank you.
I know that you're in the throes of it right now, but you're a great mom. And I know from the very beginning, you always wanted to have a co-parenting best friend relationship with Cam. And I'm happy to hear that you guys are on the other side of that.
Yeah. Making good progress.
Continually evolve as your lives change independently, but such an inspiration to so many with the businesses that you've built and your authenticity and your vulnerability. So thank you for being a guest.
Of course.
And a friend.
I would do anything for you.
And a client.
All of the above.
And you can text me anytime for food advice.
I will.
All right. Love you, girl.
Thanks Kelly. Love you.
Thank you for listening to Be Well by Kelly. Please subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Learn more at bewellbykelly.com and follow me on Instagram at bewellbykelly. I would love if you picked up my books, Body Love and Body Love Every Day. They're sold on Amazon and at all major booksellers.